likely it will clear this number right here. Very, very, very likely it will clear this number. Right, and today being Friday, we've got to be a little bit more careful. Let's get into Microsoft. Same thing with Microsoft. Let's go here. Same thing. It is following. I mean, Microsoft and Apple are in the same boat, and they are behaving similar. 8 below 21 hasn't happened for this thing, but here on the 1 hour chart, 5 below 8 has happened, and it's bouncing here. But this is not a surprise at all. Overbought conditions came back 5, 8, and the mean reversion is done. So this is the easier trade, right? This is an easier trade. Same thing to the downside. And likely scenario if it comes back down here to 86.50, then likely here at about 286, then push down into 285.20, then push down into 284, somewhere about here, 284.50. This should act as decent bounce area. First, right here, this one should act as decent bounce. 286 area that breaches, likely scenario is this 284.50 area. Uh, and again, just like Apple, or rather just like any chart, a couple of ways to resolve the overbought conditions, especially with the RSI coming back down. This is how first way it gets resolved. Second way for it to is come back down here, right? Come out of this overbought conditions. The same thing, nothing new. Oversold conditions, overbought conditions. Next cycle is oversold conditions. Cool. Right here, this chart. Yesterday, my understanding was that it'll come back into the mean reversion, and this is why I shorted Microsoft. I'm still thinking that it'll come back into the mean reversion, but and I'm still holding this thing short right now. I am a couple of dollars in the hole, but not a big position. 100 points, 100 short, 100 shares. I'm good with that. Cool. So this is still the idea. I think the mean will move up. I think to 282 or something, wherever that mean would be. I think if the market starts to push lower, I think Microsoft will try to go for this mean. However, you can clearly see there is a lot of support. 5, then that breaches the 8. Very likely a bounce at the 8. That breaches, it'll come back into the inner upper Bollinger Band here, where it is bouncing for the 3 straight days. And if it breaches that, then likely scenario is mean. As of now, mean is sitting at about 281.50. I think the mean will move higher to this number, about 283.80 or something like that. So wherever that mean would be, I think the stock wants to come down and make that mean reversion happen, then probably move higher. Depends largely on how Apple behaves. Come on. A bounce for the week here. This should act as decent support again today. If it comes back down, the 5 on the week should act as decent support. Not plotting anything sub 5 on the week for Microsoft. And should it breach that, probably, it's a story for next week or something. And we still have to deal with this. Right, so 25th April, we still need to deal with this. I think if it comes back down, even here about 277 or something, we are looking for a bounce. How the earnings would go, I don't know, because this whole AI thing. I think the earnings, the numbers will not matter as much as the outlook. Right? The outlook, whatever the outlook they are going to provide, I think we need to wait for that and then see what is going to happen with that. If they say, Chat GPT will meaningfully reduce their workforce or meaningfully add to bottom line, in likely scenario, this thing will move up alongside your semis. Let's go with. Okay, this thing is important right about here. We've been tracking this thing for a while right here. So this bounce was pretty much there, and we got that bounce. The idea was for this bounce to happen, and it came back up till here. Fine, I was expecting for it to come back into this number. That would have pushed futures another 10 points to the downside. Fair enough, it is what it is. We got a bounce. First standard deviation got hit, or rather, second standard deviation got hit. It's pushing down. Now, if it comes back down here, again, test this line. Likely scenario, it will breach this. It will breach. If the breach happens, then it is going down into about 17 roughly 17 area. So give or take another about 80 basis points from where it is right now. So VIX, if VIX takes this push to the downside, likely scenario will see at least a buoyant mark. If you know, if not, tech is taking a breather right now, and rightfully so. Oversold conditions or the lower time frame, and rightfully so, it is taking a breather. However, if tech moves higher, I think you'll see some short covering come into picture, and likely scenario is that you'll see markets moving up, probably under 0.5% or something, given a Friday. So yeah, that would happen if VIX starts to come back down and starts to breach this number here. Likely scenario, VIX will attempt another, if it doesn't come down in a straight line, but if it does breach here, expecting it to come back here, likely make another attempt for a bounce here. Keep a close watch on this. If it crosses to the upside, then likely scenario is 5, then 8. And I'm not, don't go by the numbers, go by the technicals. Right, so let's see, VIX here, it'll keep trying to do this. It'll keep trying to do this. Anytime you'll see oversold conditions here, and look for a major moving average or major support area to get tested and keep bouncing. All right, let's go DXY. This thing is doing the same thing, is bouncing. Hopefully, and this is not a certainty, but definitely a hope that 10150 area will get tested for this thing DXY, and at least this should put some pressure, downward pressure on tech. That would be nice. Actually, that would be very healthy if if something puts downward pressure on tech, if something pushes the markets down, that would be very healthy. But let's see how it goes. So if it clears here, then expecting it to push all the way up here. I will not be taking this thing seriously until it clears this number, 103.50 area. And I don't think it's going to do that because there is no real reason for dollar to move higher. There's absolutely no real reason. And with all the talk about the new alliance, the BRICS alliance, and all that, and settlements happening in their own currencies, sovereign currencies. Yeah, so all that happening. So dollar is not really a reserve currency as of now, but there is no alternative as well. So that's why we still, I think 50% will still be the reserves will still be required. So barring that, I don't really see a reason for dollar to move higher as of now. That might change. I don't really see a reason for that to change, but let's keep an eye on there. Technically, it's getting stretched to the downside. If it bounces here, likely scenario is 5 and get pushed down. But I think realistically, it should, after that push up, likely scenario, it should go down here into this number. Technicals are getting stretched, looking for a bounce. How much of a bounce? I don't know. Even I don't think it's going to go all the way even till here. Likely scenario is that it will try to reach the mean again, but I think it's going to fail the mean. And this is not a story for today. Probably going forward into May or something. But this is not a story for today. And I will not take this thing seriously unless it comes up and clears this 50 moving average. Yeah, if it moves higher, the market's going to move lower. That will put some pressure on tech. That's why the market might move lower. But taking this seriously, for it to actually wreck the markets, for me, it has to move beyond this. Unless that happens, I'm fine with that. This would just be, just be another cycle based on what is happening here. It would be just another cycle and come back down. That's how I'm looking at things. Anything else? Oh, let's go into Tesla. Nvidia, I think yesterday I was shorting this thing. Exited this trade in the morning. It wasn't able to break this, so yeah, fair enough. And I think I really think that it needs to come back down and breach this number here. But this is technical bounce. Don't want to stand in front of it. I want to get this thing resolved. I want to get into push down all the way here into 261. Then likely scenario, I want to push it down into 252. This is healthy. Actually, this is healthy. And look at this thing. I think we spoke about the PE. This is insane. 152 PE. I don't know why people are paying that, but it is what it is. Netflix. I still want to short this, but anyways, if anybody has created any what do you call um, what is this called? Uh, a scanner for you to scan this, 1090. Yeah, use the scanner. You'll catch all these moves easier. What are we doing? Tesla. Tesla, where's Tesla? Right here. Okay, Tesla thingy. Yesterday, 5, 8, and failed there to the downside. We are watching this number again here. If it breaches here, then we are looking for Tesla to move into right here. This should act as decent support for Tesla. If it comes back down into this number, we are looking for a bounce. So last time, I think 183 was to the upside. We were looking for this as a resistance point. Now it is acting as support. If that breaches, likely scenario, it's going to go down into this number. Maybe not in a straight line, but it has to happen. If that breaches, likely scenario, we are looking at a push all the way down here into these lines, 177, 176 area. That breaches 171. I think this is where the story is going, but definitely not a story for today. And Tesla takes this path to the downside, I'll be shorting it. Yeah. So oversold, overbought, and again, likely scenario is oversold. This would largely depend on how Apple and Microsoft would behave. And besides, yeah, all of these, big ones are in the same boat. But Tesla doesn't really impact the indices, right? We know the math. Tesla doesn't really impact the indices, but use Tesla as more or less like a sentiment. Cool. 5, 8 mean, and it came back down, bouncing off of the half trend. Cool thing. What else we want to know? Well, do we do oil? Where's oil? It's here. As expected, oil hit that number, took a breather, came back down to 5. It is bouncing off of the 5. Nothing new here. If it comes back down, so if it breaches the 5, then expect it to move into the 8. Into the upside, expect this as a resistance point again. If it clears 83.10, then we'll go with, where is that? Right about here, right? 84.70 area, whatever that is, the 100 moving average. So this should act as right here. This should act as pretty decent resistance for oil, and if that reaches to the upside, then expect this to get tested. Likely scenario, it should, if it tests this thing, I think it should start to come back down, maybe to the mean reversion. Where is the mean sitting? Right here. 75. I don't think 75 is in the cards, but at least it needs to come back down into 5. Then likely scenario is the 8. Should oil take this path to the downside, 5 and then 8, likely scenario will see a pause in the markets as well. ES and SPX. Uh, SPX, you can just deduct 50 points from the whatever that 27 points from ES, like we charted here with ES, right? So you can deduct about 27 points delta, and then you can get to the SPX numbers. Uh, and I think we did this one, right? ES, we did ES, right? Oh no, I think we did it.
No, we didn't do ES yet. You started with Apple.
No, we first started with futures, then moved into Apple. But anyway, so this is still the idea here, right? This is still the idea. 4162 to get tested. This line was down here. This line was down and it is moving higher. So expecting this to get tested and then bounce off of it. Uh, right here. So this is still a valid chart, and I don't like this setup. This setup is, I don't like the squeezes, right? I don't like the uncertainty. So again, to the upside, this is what we are looking at, 4178 to 4187. In a minute, we'll go why 4187, but this is what we are looking at to the upside. And exactly this is what we are looking at to the downside, 4160 area. That breaches, then expected to move down here into 4154, and you'll have a lot of support all the way through 4130. I don't think this is the case for today. 4135 doesn't seem like a thing for today. But this is why I don't really like these squeeze setups. Nice volatility to, it opened up nicely right here yesterday. The volatility expanded. Now the volatility is contracting. I can see that in the futures happening right now. So that's a problem. Or at least to me, that's a problem. To the downside, yeah, this should act as decent resistance, decent support. 4160 area. If that breaches, then we'll start to plot in real time. downside probably 41.53, and this should be it for the markets today. 41.48 area. This should be it between these two lines. Right about here, 41.49 to right about here, 41.45. This should be it for the markets to the downside. But for some reason, if that breaches, then we'll start to plot in real time. To the upside, this is what I'm looking at. Come on. Right here. So this is still the idea to the upside, 41.71 area. And somehow that breaches, let's go here, 41.87 area. So this should be it for the markets to the upside, 41.86, 41.87 area, unless Apple does that. Apple goes up and breaches that 165, 50, 60 area, and moves higher into 167 area, right? The second standard deviation on the week. If Apple starts to do that, then I think the ES will come back up and clear this resistance to the upside, 41.86, 41.87, and then we'll start to plot, new upside, probably into this number here, about 42.03 for ES. And this is doable if Apple starts to move higher. And if that clears, then likely scenario is this, where I think this should be it for the month of April, 42.30 area. Likely scenario, it'll come back up, hit that thing, and probably go down. Maybe next month we'll start to see if it starts to hover within this region. The higher time frame will get oversold. Sorry, will get overbought if it starts to hit this number, 42.30. But we are still about 15 days. We still have 15 days, and we still have earnings to come out. And if that earnings come in better than expected, then expect this to blow past 42.30. Then likely scenario, this is where it is heading into. Yeah, we haven't seen this number get tested in a while, but this is sitting up there. And even though the markets have come down drastically during that period, this line did not actually come back down. So I think there is potential for this to happen. Last time it did test this line here, it gave up some ground. I think it'll test that number again, probably an earnings story, and that I think that after that it'll start to move lower, probably test this number, and then start to push higher. That's my understanding as of now. This is I think breaking this line and pushing up. I think it's the what do you call it, summer phenomenon. But let's wait and watch. I think this line will get tested during summer sometime. So to the upside, larger, a bigger picture, 4240 area. To the downside, likely this is what we're looking at, 44,000 area, right about here. That breaches in real time. We'll start to plot it. Today, this is the upside, 4171 area to 4187 area. And if that breaches, we'll start to plot that upside, and to the downside, 4148 to 4145. This should be it for the downside. But if that breaches, we'll start to plot 8 on the day to the downside, about 4134. Yeah, let's do this in real time. If it starts to breach the 5, then let's start to plot the 8. SOXL. Let's go here with SOXL. Here we should have shorted it. Looks good. Looks good. Looks good. Should have shorted this thing here. Anyways, it's. I think looks like. I think it is still a short, but let's see if it comes back up here into. Well, why are we doing this? It doesn't move much, right? Anyway, so if it moves up here, probably 1595 area, and to the upside, this should be it for the day. But somehow it clears that, then expecting it to move up into 16.7. So for SOXL, what's the composition here? Which one? What's a bigger ticker in this? Is it Nvidia or something else? What's the bigger ticker in here? So this should be hitting today. Depends on that bigger ticker, whatever the bigger, whatever that composition is. It should hit this number. If that clears, very likely it's going to go hit this number. The markets are open. Let's move into live.